It's time to saddle up your horse, strap on your six guns, and head out to the range. Come reading with us. Hello, welcome to my channel. Another bibliophile shoots first. My name is Gregorio, and this is an announcement video for June on the Range 2026. This is an event created by Michael K. Vaughan, encouraging readers to pick up Westerns. The Western novel and story was once a hugely popular genre. Bookstores back in the day had Western sections filled with books, and used bookstores used to carry tons of old Western paperbacks. The Western has faded from its glory days, but it is still an exciting read. And this is why Michael K. Vaughan created the June on the Range event, to get readers engaged with the Western once again. In 2026, he has gathered together a whole posse of co-hosts. They include Randy Ray, the literate Texan, Greg at Ghost Readers in the Sky, Steve Donahue, Gareth at Book Songs and Other Magic, Jim at Mystery and Mayhem, Roy at Roy Reads Anything, MJ at Reading This Life, and Gavin at Genre Reads, and of course me, Gregorio, at Another Bibliophile Shoots First. In order to participate in June on the Range, you just have to read one or more Westerns of your choice. There is a slight suggestion that maybe you want to focus on some Lois L'Amore books or Zane Grey books, because those two authors were highly influential in the genre, but you don't have to do that. All you have to do is read one Western book, and you are participating in June on the Range. I was kind of curious about the history of the Western genre, so I did a little bit of internet research. The Western didn't appear fully formed with cowboys and gunfights. It grew out of older adventure traditions and then locked into a recognizable formula over time. If you trace it honestly, it is less invented and more assembled from earlier storytelling habits. Early roots, pre-1800s to early 1800s. Before there were Westerns, there were frontier stories. The key figure here is James Fenimore Cooper, especially his Leatherstocking Tales from the 1820s to the 1840s. These novels features Natty Umbo, a wilderness scout navigating Native American lands and encroaching settlers. They introduced core Western DNA, the lone frontiersman, tension between civilization and wilderness, moral codes from outside formal law. But they are essentially the Eastern frontier, not the Wild West as we imagine it. Think of them as proto-Westerns. The birth of the Western, mid-late 1800s. The genre really crystallized after the Civil War, when the American West becomes mythologized. The most widely accepted first true Western novel is The Virginian by Owen, Wister, 1902. Why this novel matters? It establishes the cowboy hero archetype, introduces the classic showdown and frontier justice, sets the tone for law versus lawlessness, fixes Wyoming as a symbolic Western setting. You can find some earlier candidates for the first Western, such as Deadwood Dick. Deadwood Dick is a 19th century American dime novel series written by Edward L. Wheeler and first published in 1877. The series follows the fictional adventures of Deadwood Dick, a bold frontiersman and outlaw hero set in the American Wild West. It became one of the most popular and enduring works of the dime novel. Malaeska, The Indian Wife of the White Hunter is an 1860 novella by American author Anne S. Stevens. It is widely recognized as the first title in Beadley's dime novel series, making it the beginning of mass-market popular fiction. The dime novels exploded between 1860 and 1900. They have larger-than-life heroes, outlaws, scouts, gunfighters, heavy exaggeration. Figures like Buffalo Bill helped blur reality and myth through the Wild West shows. This period matters because it standardized the imagery: six-shooters, saloons, stagecoaches, duels at high noon. In other words, the West became less a place and more of a story engine. The popularity of the Hollywood Western movie expanded the appeal of the Western novel. Hollywood took the early template and amplified it. Stagecoach made the Western movie a prestige film genre. Stars like John Wayne defined the stoic cowboy. Landscapes, deserts became iconic symbols. At this point, the Western becomes America's national mythology, a moral drama about order versus chaos. From the 1960s through the present, revisionist and modern Westerns started to appear. By the 1960s, the genre starts questioning itself. Spaghetti Westerns, example Clint Eastwood in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, make heroes morally ambiguous. Later works dismantle the myth entirely. In the literary format, you get books like Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy that is set in the Old West but does not follow the Western tropes. It became violent, philosophical, and anti-romantic. Modern Westerns often focus on the cost of violence, erased perspectives from the Native Americans, the myth versus reality gap. Because in reality, gunfights at high noon did not happen in the Old West. But all these different forms of Westerns still count for June on the Range. You get to pick which type of Western suits you the best. Now, for this June on the Range, I have a number of books that I intend to read. Valdez is Coming by Elmore Leonard, originally published in 1970. Elmore Leonard is more famously known for his crime and mystery novels, but he is also an established and admired Western author. California Kill by George G. Gilman, Edge number 7, originally published in 1973. This series of books is the equivalent of a spaghetti Western, and they are extraordinarily violent. In Edge number 2, the author got an extreme amount of criticism for his sexual violence against women, and he did tone that down a little bit in future books. But this is known as the most violent series ever written. I don't know if that's true, but they're kind of entertaining to read. Night of the Gila by J.R. Roberts, 34 in the Gunsmith series, published in 1984. This series is what I like to call a naughty Western. It features all your typical Western tropes. You have your gunfighter character somewhere out west going through some sort of adventure, and then interspersed in this adventure, there are chapters of pure pornographic sex. Very graphic and detailed because the male readership of most Westerns, I guess they appreciated this graphic sex. It really doesn't harm the story, but kind of beware of what you're getting into when you read the Gunsmith series. I kind of like them. I may hold off reading this until Garbagast because it really is a trashy book, even though a lot of fun. Butcher's Crossing by John Williams, originally published in 1860. This is what would be considered a literary Western. Its readership was probably not the genre reader Western type. This would be your literary sort of highbrowish book, but it is a Western. It features a young student out east who gets enamored with the works of Emerson and decides to go explore himself and find himself out west. And then this student finds himself on a buffalo hunt. And this buffalo hunt is extremely graphic in what it does to the buffalo. If you are concerned about books with animal violence, this is not for you. But it is a great literary work set in the Old West. This will be my third time reading this book, and I'm doing this because I am rereading all of John Williams' novels, which is rather easy to do because he only wrote 4 novels. But if you want a Western that's not quite like the genre Westerns, you may want to check this one out. And because Lois L'Amore is so important to the Western genre, I may be tempted to pick out a book from this stack. I don't know which one I will pick yet, but I'm only going to be picking Lois L'Amore if I have time in June. I'm also considering picking up the audiobook version of Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry, originally published in 1985. It is often considered the best Western ever written, but it is a very long book. In print, it is 860 pages, and in audio, it is 35 hours and 46 minutes in length. I have read it before, probably about 15 years ago, and I had scheduled myself to read it over 4 weeks because I was reading it for a book club. I read that sucker in 9 days. It is really, truly exciting. The characters are so fabulous that you will just want to continue reading until you get to the end quickly. You will not be able to put the book down. Okay, that's what I have to say about June on the Range for 2026. I hope people will join us and read a Western or two. Thank you for watching and keep on reading Westerns.